Good afternoon. You're listening to the Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. I am your host, Jazmine Urbina, here in the studio today with my dad and co-host, Alex Urbina. Hi, Dad.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful.
So today we are going to continue going over our Parenting 101 series, things that we need to be teaching our children about living consciously. And in this series, we've been going over the morals, values, and principles and distinctions that we've kind of compiled together that we think are important to go over with your kids, and maybe not even sit down and go over this whole list like the way we've been doing it, but maybe even cherry picking the ones that you recognize can be simple or easier for you to call out on those like teachable moments.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next distinction we're going to talk about, and we're going to start today's show off, is frustration. And what does frustration look like? And the question I want to propose is, are you having conscious, intentional discussions with your kids and teaching them certain meanings of certain words and certain experiences that they may be having in their life? And the word frustration, I think, is an important one that you should be teaching your kids so that they learn how to make sense of what frustration is, such that they're able to manage that emotion to the point where it doesn't take them or turn them down a road and have them go down a certain road where their frustration takes over their state of being, to the point where their frustration now has them be stressed out and worried and sad and all the other nasty and negative emotions. That frustration can end up lingering to a certain point where you're not able to be in control of your own state of mind.
Yeah, for me, I'm almost always frustrated. So if, I can see the value in having someone ahead of time telling me that, not everything needs to be perfect, especially if you realize that you have a kid who has that controlling style personality. When things don't go the way that they plan or go the way that they want, I feel like frustration is the emotion that they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not really necessarily anger. It's just frustrated that you can't control the situation, frustrated that there were surprises that you didn't anticipate. And I think that I think frustration in a controlling personality kind of go hand in hand. So if you do notice that your kid does have that controlling style personality, this is a really, really important one to start going over.
And I think it's also important to either learn yourself the distinction of frustration and possibly the other emotions that can evolve or come out of being frustration. Like, what's the next level? For me, I think that after the state of frustration, you can very easily be angry. And what would it be like if you taught your kids the certain levels? Like, maybe frustration is the first emotion that comes up. And then after your frustration, if you can't figure out how to put the framework around the frustration to where you're able to manage it, then the next stage of emotion is anger, or I'm getting angry now. So if you teach your kids the possibility that they can be frustrated in a healthy way to where it doesn't turn into angry or resentful or vengeful, then they can stay in that stage of being frustrated and learn how to feel that emotion in a healthy way, and then learn how to surrender it or let it go, such that they're able to feel that emotion, let it go, and not let it get to the stages that you don't want them to get to.
Yeah, and I think frustration, for me at least, is I know that when I get really, really frustrated, it's like almost like a physical, it almost starts to feel physical, where it's like I have knots, or like there's something in my throat where I feel like either I can't swallow or I can't breathe or something. Like, it actually does take on me like a very physical toll. And I think that that's part of the emotion that I'm just trying to get out of so fast that maybe I don't want to be in it anymore, so I just jump to like the next thing, which could be, anger, and I would rather sit there and be angry than be sitting in that frustration and that anxiety.
What do you think the benefit of you knowing that you're frustrated and really reflecting on your frustration and knowing that you can identify it and classify it as, okay, I'm frustrated, by you just resonating with it, realizing that you're frustrated, owning it, and saying it out loud to yourself or even mentally to yourself, but knowing that you're in your own state of being frustrated? What's the benefit of having that ability to acknowledge it?
Definitely the benefit is being able to get out of it faster, like quicker. For example, we recently this week you invited our whole family to to view this place, right? So I was under the impression that we were going to walk around this property. We were going to, just as a family, chat, whatever, and be in and out of there maybe 30 minutes. And I get there, and there's a bunch of people there, and they're setting up like a picnic. They're turning the barbecue on, and I just remember being so overwhelmed and really frustrated because I was like, are we going to be here a long time, for one? For two, I didn't bring a jacket. Three, I don't want to be here. Why didn't anyone tell me what this was going to be? And I was really frustrated that day. I don't know if you could tell, but I was really frustrated like the first maybe hour, maybe like 45 minutes to an hour. I was just frustrated because I didn't want, I wasn't in control. I didn't know what was going on, and things were just popping up. And I'm not a surprise person. I'm not the kind of, go with the flow kind of person. I need a plan. And so when I realized that everybody else knew the plan except me, I was just very frustrated. And then I realized that I was getting frustrated. And I think I was able to get off of it faster. So for me, an hour is really fast to get out of that frustration. Normally, it'll take me anywhere from 3 to 4 to even overnight sometimes. So I felt like as soon as I was able to let it go, I actually ended up having a really good time and having fun, with my brother, my sister, and, messing around and being us. But I can see past me that would have not had any fun. That would have just been resisting the whole event because I just wanted to get out of there.
And so what I'm hearing you say is that by you realizing and recognizing that you were in a state of frustration, helped you process it and surrender it and let it go and move beyond it at a quicker rate, rather than not being aware that you're frustrated, not knowing what the distinction is, not knowing what the feeling is. But by being aware of it, you're able to identify it, make sense of it, and then let it go and surrender it so it can free you up to be to choose a different kind of emotion, like surrender and now playful, freedom, joy, excitement. And so it frees you up to be able to move on to the next emotion.
Yeah, if I hadn't stopped, because there was a moment where I stopped and I said, okay, I realize now that I'm frustrated, I can either go on the rest, because I didn't know how long we were going to be there. We ended up being there like three hours. So that was already 2 hours longer than I had thought. So for me, there was a moment where I stopped and I thought, okay, am I going to just be in a bad mood the rest of the time, or should I just let it go and then try to have fun? So I decided to just let it go and have fun. And I did. And it took maybe 3 seconds after just deciding to let it go that I could be playful.
And I think this is why this is important, to be able to have these kinds of discussions with our children and teach them these distinctions so that they can understand what words mean, what feelings mean, what feelings are, what things are, so they can have a healthy framework of understanding what they're experiencing, rather than being totally unaware or unconscious of what's happening. And in their unconsciousness, they can easily go from frustration to anger to resentment, to then end up making a choice or a decision that they'll regret later on, or make a decision that's not healthy or beneficial to them. So if you're unconscious and totally unaware of your own state of mind, your own feelings, your own emotions, and you don't understand the word and don't know how to compartmentalize what you're feeling, then you're just like on automatic pilot. You're totally in reactive mode. You're not living your life proactively. You're reactive to everything.
Yeah, and I think if you actually pay attention to your kids and like their mannerisms, what they're doing, you can start to tell like, okay, they're frustrated. Oh, okay, they're unhappy here or whatever. So maybe if it's just taking a minute to actually pay attention to them and pull them aside and say, hey, I know you're frustrated. Let's just have a good time. Usually something even like that, just acknowledging that you understand that they're frustrated or you understand why, but saying that's okay, but let's just move on so we can have a better time, or let's just, go on with our lives. We're not going to stay frustrated. Sometimes that is enough to just get them off of it.
Yeah, or just giving them the permission that they can let it go and get off of and surrender of being frustrated.
Yeah, and I think a big value too for a lot of kids is when people acknowledge that what they're feeling is real. Like if you can say, hey, I would be frustrated too, sometimes you don't even need to apologize. It's just saying, hey, I understand. Like I've been there before. If you can say like, I would be mad too if I was you. I would be angry too if I was you. That makes people feel like, oh, okay, good, because I am.
You can even see people in their face when they get validated. They go,
yeah, it's like
and then
they let it go.
And they shift. And also when in their validation from someone else, either identifying that they are valid to be frustrated, they can just finally surrender and let it go. And all of a sudden you'll see a smile in their face, their whole mannerism shifts, and then they show up in a different space now in that environment, which they could have in their unconsciousness and unaware carried that frustration to the whole night, ruining the whole night, just being miserable, and then coming home and going straight to bed and just missing out on a huge opportunity for them to show up in any other different way.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's funny because I have a friend that kind of she always agrees with me, and in her agreeing with me, I end up like flipping sides. So it's like I'll be like complaining to her about my sister, and I'll be like, "Oh my God, my sister's the worst," and she'll be like, "Yeah, she's terrible," and I'll be like, "No, she's great." I just, like when you have validation, you start to realize that it's not just one way.
Yeah. And then, earlier you were talking about letting your son or daughter know, like, I know you're frustrated. That's assuming that they told you that they're actually frustrated. If they didn't tell you that, then you're actually assuming that they're frustrated, and then you're projecting your own experience on them, which they haven't really validated for themselves. But if they did tell you, Mom, I'm really frustrated right now, I think that's a good thing because they're acknowledging how they're actually feeling. My experience of most kids, young adults, and parents is that a lot of us don't know what we're actually feeling. And the way that I know that, because as a coach, I'll ask people, how do you feel? And they will respond with, I feel good. And I'll say, well, good's not a feeling. I feel great. Great's not a feeling. What's the emotion? What's the feeling? I feel happy. Great. That's an emotion right there. I feel sad. That's an emotion. I feel frustrated. That's an emotion. So sometimes we have to learn how to teach our kids what emotions are and what's the feeling you're actually experiencing, because we've learned how to not learn or identify the actual feeling or the emotion that we're having because no one has taught us what the emotions are or what it feels like or how to feel and experience them.
So if you do find yourself in that situation where you see that your kid is what you're assuming to be is frustrated or angry or just going through any type of challenge, when you do pull them aside without projecting what's like the question or what's the advice that you're going to give to them to move on?
Well, I think first you have to ask them the question to help them identify what they're feeling. So you have to ask them, how do you feel right now? Well, I don't know. And so they're gonna, when they're little, they're gonna try to find the words in their vocabulary to explain to you that they're frustrated if you haven't taught them the distinction of frustration. And so your job now in that moment is to seize the moment, to have it be a teachable moment. And then your job is to teach them what frustration means. And so when you teach them the distinction called frustration and you find all the meaning and the descriptions in the dictionary or on Google or Wikipedia or wherever you go to find the information to explain them what frustration is, then now you're educating them. You're giving them an emotional education of understanding what they're actually feeling. Once they know what that feels like, then later on they can tell you, you know what, Mom, I'm really frustrated right now. Or when you ask them, how do you feel? They're going to go, I'm frustrated. So your job is to teach your kids that, because I guarantee you they're not learning it at school. Schools aren't opening up their books and learning emotional intelligence. They're not teaching them those things. And I think that's one of the biggest struggles our young people are having, and young adults, and then soon to be full-grown adults, we're struggling with, because we don't know our own state of mind. We don't know our own emotional state. And emotional intelligence is a key distinction that we need to master in our life to be successful in all areas, not just in certain areas.
Yeah, and I also think that even though schools are lacking teaching that, I think a lot of parents too, maybe it's because they don't see the value in it, or they think, those are just things that you just learn. Like I don't need to sit down and teach my kids like all of the emotions, but that's not really what it is. And I think the challenging part is identifying that your kid is experiencing that emotion, and then taking them aside and then explaining it or having that moment with them. But I think parents just don't do that anymore. They just, it's kind of a lot of work to, okay, I got to stop. I got to I'll be right back, guys. I got to go take care of this. And then, you go and do it. And
It is a lot of work.
And I think that not enough people or not enough parents are just deciding, okay, let me just keep paying attention to what they're feeling. And what's even worse is if you do acknowledge that they are feeling that way, but you ignore it and you continue on, your life, and you say, okay, they're going to figure it out. They're going to find out that they're frustrated, or they're just going to get over it.
But that's the distinction between conscious parenting and unconscious parenting. It's a distinction between mindful parenting and parents that have decided that they're too busy to do that kind of work, or that there are other things more important. And there's no good, bad, right, or wrong here. There's not a judgment. If you're the type of parent that has just relied on, well, they get to figure it out on their own, that's not a bad thing. It's just a matter of you deciding, what do you want for your kids? How well do you want to arm and prepare and set your kids up to win in their life emotionally, so that they're successful in all of their relationships? And if you really dive into relationships, the whole world and all of life is all surrounded around relationship building. From the careers that you're in to the groups and the social settings, it's all about being masterful in your relationship. And the number one relationship you have to first learn how to master is the one with self. You really have to learn how to master your own state and your own emotions before you can start learning how to deal with other people's emotions. If you haven't learned how to deal emotionally with yourself, it's going to be very challenging for you to deal with other people when they're emotional.
Yeah. One thing too, before we move on, is I really feel like when you're in a state of frustration, maybe you're not always that approachable. So I think, I don't know if I'm making an excuse for parents, but like, it's more of like it can also be annoying, if your kid's frustrated and you're like, oh, I don't want to deal with this, or so I can understand too why you maybe would not want to even go there with them, but I also can see.
But that's your job. Your job as a parent is, when your son or daughter's frustrated, is for you to get in there and help them through that process. So yes, it can be an excuse. It can be a way out to say, I don't want to deal with it. But that's your job when you signed up as a parent. Now you got to decide, is my job a conscious parent or an unconscious parent? Am I an extraordinary parent, or I'm just an average parent? Again, not good, bad, right, or wrong, and it's not judgment. It's just you deciding what kind of parent you want to be. So those parents that have decided that they really want to set their kids up to win in a big way, your job is not just to educate them by putting them into a school, an organized school, but it's to do some of the work at home, to do some of the emotional work, the heartfelt stuff. You have to learn how to teach them about life and about themselves and about relationships and about love and spiritual and all the other things that they're not learning either out in the world or out in these organized groups that we're sending them to learn these things.
So what about the parents that, I guess maybe, I don't know if you want to call it an excuse, but their reasoning is, oh, well, nobody taught me that. I figured it out and I'm fine. Like, what do you have to say, like, for?
I don't have anything to say other than if they get to be right about it. I mean, again, this isn't a good, bad, right, or wrong thing. If that's their justification and if it's working for them, good for you. However, there are people that have realized that we can really educate ourselves in a whole nother level so that we can prepare our kids in a certain way such that we're setting them up to win ultimately in a bigger way. That doesn't mean that if you're not having these discussions with your kids, that they're not figuring out on their own, or that they're not going to get by and they're going to live a beautiful life. You can live a beautiful life learning none of these distinctions. Just by, you can live a beautiful life just by being a beautiful human being and caring and being compassionate and being in service and helping other people. You can still be a contribution and still live an amazing and extraordinary life. However, we're just having this discussion, opening up the possibility for those parents that want to learn these distinctions for themselves such that they can master themselves and teach their kids how to master themselves as well.
Yeah, we have to take a quick break, but stay tuned for more of The Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS.
Come join me, Arif Halby, for Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Every Tuesday at noon, we uncover ways to help you manage your money, get out of debt, and prepare for your retirement. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Are you not sure if you can retire yet? Listen to us and learn about tips for savings, retirement strategies, and so much more. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour on your hometown station, KHTS.
Every day after school, children and teens in our community are alone without academic support, access to healthy food and activities, or adults to guide them. With your support, we can provide our youth a second home, support their academic success, and build leaders. Join us Saturday, June 2nd at All That Glitters is Gold, the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Clarita Valley's annual benefit auction. Visit scvbgc.org or call us at 661-254-CLUB to purchase your tickets.
Hi, Kirk Stinson here with Plumbing by Kirk, your hometown plumber. I want to stress to you how important it is to get proper advice on what to do in case of emergencies. Always know where your shutoff valves are to be able to isolate it and have the problem taken care of on regular hours and avoid expensive plumbing bill. We invite you to visit our website for free plumbing advice at plumbingbykirk.com or give us a call, 263-6519. That's 263-6519.
My dad is the best plumber ever. Plumbing by Kirk.
La Esmeralda is home to truly authentic Mexican food. This family-owned restaurant prides itself on its fresh-to-order menu. Even the tortillas are made in-house. If you have a taste for sizzling fajitas, flautas, or menudo, you have to try La Esmeralda's Mexican and Seafood Restaurant. Dine in or order out for the most authentic Mexican food Santa Clarita has to offer. Their Taco Tuesday, it'll turn you into a regular. La Esmeralda on Bouquet at Haskell.
It isn't often when we see a company launch in Santa Clarita and become an international sensation. In 2010, Jen Gerard founded Whitening Lightning in her Valencia kitchen. Now it's a booming international sensation. Leading actresses and international models have switched to Whitening Lightning to avoid the mess, hassle, and sensitivity of other products. Whitening Lightning's simple Dial a Smile kit will dramatically turn your teeth whiter in just 20 minutes. Rediscover how white your teeth can look. Visit whiteninglightning.com. whiteninglightning.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. Today we are just going over our Parenting 101 segment. Dad, you want to jump right on into the next one?
Yeah, the next distinction we're going to go over is future versus the present moment. A lot of times I'll be working with some clients and they will talk about the future as though the future actually exists. Like
when we're worried about something that hasn't happened?
We just refer to the future like it's happening someday. Like someday is actually out there. And it took me a while to really learn this distinction that the future doesn't really exist. It's just a word that we've made up as a point of reference. Like it's a term that we've created to basically say at a different time other than the present moment right now. And so the more you learn about certain distinctions like the present moment, you really realize that the present moment is the only moment that actually exists. It's the only time that is actually happening is right now. Like right now is all that's here. And then after right now, guess what's here?
Right now.
Right now again. So right now just keeps showing up over and over and over again. That there is no such thing as the future. And a lot of times if we live in this illusion that the future is actually somewhere out there, then we can very easily put things off and keep putting them off and never actually creating that which we desire most, because we live in the illusion that someday is actually going to show up. Someday is going to come. So that's why I think it's important to explain to your kids as well as learn for yourself that there is no such thing as the future. It's just a word. It's a point of reference that we've all decided in society that we have come to an agreement that it's just a different time other than this right now. It's a different right now, but just not this one right here or this one right here or this one right here. I know that sounds weird, but all that exists is just each new moment of now. Now just keeps showing up over and over and over again.
I think that the future is, yes, it has its positive things. Like we get to look forward to something and we get to, one day I'm going to.
Well, like a dream.
Yeah.
or a vision. We create a vision or a dream to be something, and then we've decided someday. or in the future.
Right.
But
right.
it's still not something that's out there. It's more like a creation that we've created in our mind. It's more like a vision or a picture that we've created, that this is what it looks like when I decide to start creating it.
So with that, let's say I'm going to set a goal, and I say, okay, in 2020 I'm going to own my own business. Okay, so that's a future moment, right? That's not something that's happening right now.
No, it actually can start. You can start creating it right now. In fact, most people are creating their vision or their dream in the current present moment. But it's not like it's going to show up on its own somewhere out there, because out there doesn't exist. It's only going to show up in a different moment of now. Let's say that moment for you visualizing it is when you're with the key, you're opening the door, and you're going, all right, everybody, come on into my new business, and everyone's walking in. That's a visual you have up in your mind. But it's not in a certain place called the future. It's just a vision you have. But what I'm doing every single day is I'm making certain choices that are leading up to that moment where I actually open up the door and let everybody in. So I'm actually creating that vision right now by making phone calls to the financial institution that's going to lend me the funds, or I'm calling up certain people to be a part of my team to make it happen. And so I'm actually creating the business. It just hasn't manifested at that vision where I'm opening the door and I'm letting people in for the grand opening. And it doesn't exist out there or someday or in the future. It's just a vision that I have that is going to be a certain moment that I'm going to get to experience and be grateful for.
Right. And sometimes we set goals too that we let them be in the future so much that we never really make the steps.
That's the point. That's why I want to have this discussion, because if you can't handle this concept called in the future, you can constantly just keep having it be in the future, and you never attain it, because you've put it in this place out that you've decided is out there someday, and we never really create in the moment the steps that it takes to actually manifest that, because we threw it out there at this imaginary illusional place called the future. So until you can learn that there is no future, and that you have whatever it is that you desire in that vision, you have to start creating it now in the moment, such that it actually manifests in a different moment right in front of your face.
Yeah, I'm kind of starting to understand it, and I'm now realizing that
this isn't something you just like because I explained it,
right.
You're going to understand it. In fact, a lot of people are probably going to be upset and angry at me, and they're going to not agree with what I'm saying because they haven't gone down that journey to understand the distinctions yet of being in the present moment.
But now, even explaining it, I'm realizing all the times where I always said, okay, at this point in time, this is going to have been done, and I hadn't even started anywhere to it. Like, I'm pretty sure in January I said, okay, in June, in July, I'm going to be like summer ready. Like, my body's going to be summer ready. I'm going to wear a swimsuit.
Yeah.
And then it comes and you're like, okay, next summer.
That's the point. That's one point I'm trying to make is, if you're going to declare something, don't declare it into this thing called the future. Declare it as though it's happening now, and based on the present moment, I'm going to start making more choices in the present moment that's leading me down that path to actually manifest that vision. Have it be more of a vision rather than in the future. But we use this word future more as a point of reference. And so if you use the word future in front of me, I'm not going to call you on it, and I'm not going to have a full-on discussion or a debate with you. It's just a common word that we all use. It's more of an understanding that it's not happening now. But I don't want you to live in the illusion that this word, the future, is out there, because you can very easily just keep putting it on the back burner because you think it's going to show up someday. And it's not going to show up someday in the future because you're not creating it in the present moment now.
Okay, so how do we take this concept and explain it to a kid, like someone younger? Like as a parent, how am I going to explain?
A little bit at a time.
Okay.
So you as a parent have to learn the distinction yourself and go on that journey of learning the distinction of what the present moment really is and what the future is or isn't. And then you have to start, as you're learning, you start to teach your son or your daughter a little bit at a time, like planting seeds. you can't teach somebody something in one instant, because some things take a little bit time to understand, to wrap your mind around. We have a lot of conditioning and programming and belief system and years of being right about how we see the world that you just can't get it in one session or one radio show or one moment. We have to slowly, unconsciously unlearn some of the things that have been getting in the way and sabotaging us. So this discussion, you can't just grab it and try to make sense of it. It's an ongoing process. And that's why when I'm working with a lot of my clients, it takes literally months or years for them to start picking up momentum and start having some clarity about what is and what isn't, and learning these distinctions. And once they learn them, they start mastering them, and then they start creating some extraordinary results in their lives. But it doesn't just happen with 1 or 2 sessions. It's just not going to happen like that. It's going to be in a journey that you're going to embark on and decide that that's the kind of life that you want to live.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just taking it a little bit because, you know, it is a lot and it's a big concept.
But you've heard this before, so whether it's the 3rd time or the 12th time or the 20th time, a little bit at a time, you start getting more clarity about it.
Well, sometimes I hear things, like I can hear things 50 times and then not really have heard it. Or sometimes it really takes me to look back at a situation and say, oh, okay, I did that in this instance, and then now I understand. But if I don't have a scenario to attach it to or to kind of explain it as an example, I probably didn't, just assume I didn't hear it at all. But the thing that is really, I guess, overwhelming with this theory is that for me, I've always used the future, especially when you're young. I feel like you always use the future as like some type of inspiration, or like, you know, because you want to get there, you want to grow up. Like, you know, when you're a kid, you're like, I want to be a teenager so bad. And then when you're a teenager, I want to be an adult. I want to go to college. And then when you get out of college, like, I just want my life together. You know, like, so much of our life, I feel like, at least for me, or maybe even it's a millennial thing or something, where we just spend so much time dreaming about what our next phase is going to be like, that I don't want to misunderstand this idea, thinking that, oh, you can't have dreams in the future or anything.
You're a creator, so you're going to create dreams anyways. You're going to create visions. You're going to create grander illusions of what you can actually accomplish, create, and manifest in your life. That's what you are as a creative being. I'm just pointing out the possibility that there is no such thing as someday, or this thing called the future. Like, I'm putting all my hopes into the future me, the 60-year-old or the 30-year-old or the 45-year-old man or woman, leader, a parent, whatever it is, because just because you've put it out there in this imaginary place called the future doesn't mean it's just going to show up like that. And that's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, because
that's what I'm trying to tell you, is I can have hope for the future. That's great that you have hope for this place called the future, but it's not going to just manifest and just pop out of the sky because now all of a sudden you're 40 and you're in that so-called place called the future. You're going to have to create that. You're going to have to manifest it. You're going to have to go down that road and make certain choices such that you actually cause and create that experience for yourself. But you got to start doing it now in the present moment.
Yeah, I think it really, now that I guess I'm just going to like tell on all of us, I think it really comes down to we don't want, or at least I don't want to, I just want to put it in the future and not worry about it right now.
Thank you for being honest and just saying, you know what, me putting it in this so-called future has me not have to deal with it right now, or find the courage or the self-worth or make the commitment to actually do it, start working on it now. So I kind of just brush it off and put it in this imaginary place called the future.
Which is nothing now. Like, now I'm realizing I'm just brushing it off and just throwing it away. Like,
yeah,
basically.
Yeah. But what power you can create for yourself when you finally have that aha moment. When you finally get the clarity that there is no such thing as a future, there's only the present moment of now. For people, when it clicks, or when they realize it, or they understand it, or they become aware of that understanding, they start getting crystal clear about making those declarations and making those commitments, and actually start doing the do right now in this present moment, even starting with stage 1 or stage 5 or stage 8. It might take stage 320 to actually manifest that result, but you're creating those stages and those choices and those little actions in each new moment of now, the present moment.
Yeah, but now it's like, okay, every single thing I do, not every single thing I do, but I need to spend a majority of all my right now moments putting like almost like it's like a piggy bank, like putting money into whatever that dream is over and over and over again until I get to that whatever that imaginary future
the
is.
future. So when the piggy bank, it now has, I'm putting $1 in this big piggy bank, or let's say $100 in this big piggy bank. At a certain point that we've called the future, it's going to get so full that it's ready to crack, and then I should have $20,000 in there. However, it's not going to just manifest if the piggy bank is sitting there in each new moment going by with you not putting $100 in there. Just because it gets to the future and you go to crack it open, you go, "Where's that 20 grand?" And I'm going to look at you and go, were you putting effort and making conscious choices to actually have the $20,000 manifest in this future moment that we're at in the present moment called now? And you're going to go, "No." So then that's going to now have you look at this grand illusion that you had, that 20 grand was going to be created and manifested in this place called the future.
No, yeah, I definitely do that. Like I have this illusion like where I get somewhere and I'm like, how did this happen? And then I really think about it. I'm like, oh, because I didn't do anything.
Yeah, because you kept pushing it off. You kept brushing it off into this place in the back of our mind called someday I'll get to it. Someday never comes. The only thing that keeps showing up in each new moment is what?
Right now.
Right now. Right now is all that exists. The present moment. It keeps coming up. Hold on. I'm going to show you. Let's wait for the next moment of now. All right. Here it is. You ready? It's now. And then right now it's what?
Right now.
It's right now. So right now just keeps showing up over and over and over again. And now it has you think about this grand illusion that's called time. Time doesn't even really exist.
Okay, don't even. We're like going to go to commercial like in a little bit. Don't even start with that one. But.
Time is an illusion, and that's why we walk around with these watches, because we made certain agreements that at this time, then we'll get together.
But like, just to touch upon this one more time, because this is like really a lot. Like when you were saying like you've heard this before, I'm really just like, no, I haven't. I'm listening. I'm hearing this like this is the first time ever. Like
that's good. But you actually have heard this before, because I've said it to you several times in different ways, and also at different understandings at my state too. So let's say in the last 10 years, I've shared this with you at different times in a car ride or sitting on the couch, and I've explained it to you. I've also explained it to you of my understanding back then when I was at that certain stage. But I'm also getting clear about it every time I learn or discuss or evoke the higher learning and awareness of that distinction.
Yeah, I also think that when you're young too, it's kind of just like you were telling me, and I was like, I'll worry about that later.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like future me's problem.
Yeah. I'll learn about the future in the future. Yeah.
But I also too can now, being older, I can see now looking back to all the things that I thought I was going to have done right now that never came, or that I pushed off to say like, oh, okay, give yourself more time. You can push it off into the future. But again, it really does come down to, I don't want to do it right now. I don't want to be that right now. I don't want to deal with it right now. That you just kind of push it off into that's future me's problem.
So here's an example. How many of you that are listening to the sound waves coming through your speaker have ever decided at one point in your life, like, I want to write a book, and someday in the future I'm going to write a book, and you still haven't written a book? Or someday in the future, or someday, which is in the future, I'm going to do X, and you still haven't done X, is because you haven't made the commitment to start on X or writing the book. You haven't decided to do it right now in this moment. So a lot of times when I'm working with some of my clients and they make bold declarations, because that's what my clients do, I will say, great, when are you going to commit to that? And it's funny because when I start asking them questions, there's only one answer that I'm looking for. And what do you think that is?
Right now.
Right now. And when they say that, I'm going to say, okay, great. Let's do something right now that actually starts it. And then they look at me weird, like, you mean like literally right now? And I go, well, what other right now is there? And then they start laughing and they go, okay, fine. What do I have to do? And I go, you got to make that first phone call to whoever. And so then they open up their phone and they start making the phone call, and they have that conversation right in front of me. And when they get off the phone, they usually have this big smile on their face. And I go, I get it now. I have to constantly be working on whatever it is that I visualize, whatever my vision is or my goal. I got to constantly be working on it all the time in all different moments. I might have to shuffle a few of them out of the way to get to some of the important things, but it's got to be a constant process of constantly putting that work into it.
Sounds good. We have to take a quick break, but stay tuned for more of The Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS.
Stone Oven, the healthy alternative. You've never tasted a sandwich like this before. Gourmet bread cooked before your eyes. Stone Oven at the food court at Valencia Town Center.
Save at the best Santa Clarita restaurants. Restaurant Row, where everything is half price. Click on hometownstation.com and discover incredible savings. Online or at our radio station, everyone saves with Restaurant Row. Check it out at hometownstation.com. Restaurant Row, where everything is half price.
I know the drill. Happy wife, happy life. That's why when she picked the flooring, paint, and cabinets, I simply said, yes, dear. But the home theater, now that's my domain.
During the month of May, Party Homes is offering a home smart theater system including a 72-inch smart TV with the purchase of any new home at Arista, Cresta, or Verano at Aliendo. Don't wait. Special ends May 31st. Visit partyhomes.com/homesmart event for details.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
One more day, one more time.
We've been singing their songs for decades, and now Diamond Rio brings their musical magic to the Santa Clarita Performing Arts Center on Saturday, June 30th.
What a beautiful mess I'm in. Spending all my time.
KHTS is proud to present Diamond Rio, 6-time Country Vocal Group of the Year, 23 top 10 hits. Experience Grammy Award winners Diamond Rio like you've never seen them before, right here in our hometown at the Santa Clarita Performing Arts Center.
Imagine that. Love lasts forever. Imagine
Country
that.
legends Diamond Rio, and featuring our one and only local singing sensation, Savannah Burrows. Savannah Burrows and Diamond Rio, together at the Santa Clarita Performing Arts Center, Saturday, June 30th. Tickets are going fast. Visit canyonspac.com to purchase yours. canyonspac.com for Diamond Rio.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. Today we are going over our Parenting 101 series. We only have a couple of minutes, so I want to just jump right into the next one and hopefully finish the show with at least one more.
So our next distinction is called generosity, and it's the quality of being giving or generous. One of the distinctions and definitions I really love the most is the quality or fact of being plentiful or large or being abundant. I think that in order to be generous, you really have to come from, right? You got to embody the beingness of being abundant and plentiful. Like there's enough to go around. And so because there's enough to go around, I want you to have this, rather than operating from a place of scarcity. Like I don't have enough, so therefore I can't give or offer anything.
Or this is the worst. I usually am not like one to say like, oh, if this is bad or this is wrong or whatever, but because I acknowledge it about myself, I have like already put so much like negativity towards it that I would say it's the worst one. But I feel like the worst or the least effective version
there you go.
of generosity is when you give like out of the abundance, but you aren't really giving as if there's so much left that you have, enough left that you expect something else in return. Or
well, that's not abundant, right?
Right.
Because if it was abundant,
but you give it in the illusion like, oh, whatever you want, this is yours. I'm here for you. Anything you want ever, my door's open. And then when it is, and when people do cash in on that, or people really are in a time of need, or they're taking advantage, any way it is, if you're giving it from abundance, then it doesn't matter. But when there's and people will be like, oh yeah, I'm generous. It depends what the situation is, but that's not what generosity is. And I feel like anytime you give and you expect something in return, that's like, for me, the least effective form of giving.
And I think that there might be different levels of generosity. And again, a lot of it has to do with our learning curve and our ability to evolve as human beings and be more conscious and more aware. And be more abundant. I think it's more of a journey that you're on in abundance and plentiful as you get to the higher stages of really feeling abundant and being more like a conduit to the world. For example, if you're being compensated heavily or abundantly or plentiful in your contribution to the world, and you're making lots of income and money's coming, you can be a conduit to shovel or push some of that money towards other people to support them in their vision and their dreams, and therefore you become this like this highway for money to flow through you. Or you can be abundant in support towards other people or helping others with your time or with your expertise, and you let it flow through you, and you're abundant, and that you give it away unconditionally. Those are the higher levels of generosity. But when you're operating from a lower level, it's a little bit more scarce. Like, if I give it, I don't know if I'll have enough for myself. And it's, again, no good, bad, right, or wrong or judgment in it. It's just where you are depending on where you are in your journey.
I feel like the giving from the scarce doesn't really make sense to me. Maybe because I'm not thinking about it in a form of like a physical thing. Like, I'm not thinking about like money or gifts or anything. I'm thinking more like of a quality. Like, if you're giving love, you're being generous and you're giving love. If people are operating out of scarcity love.
Here's an example. So if I have this scarcity that there's not enough love to come around, every time you're around, I'm gonna be like, hey Jazz, what are you up to? What are you doing? I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna support you. And they're like over excited to really help you. They're doing it with the idea that someday I'm gonna need Jazmine. And
yes, and that's what I'm saying is
okay, but that's coming from scarcity.
Okay,
that's operating from a place of, I know that I'm gonna give this away over abundantly, so that one day when I need you, you're gonna be there. Now, is that an expectation or not?
Yes.
So what happens when you have expectations?
You set yourself up to be sad.
You set yourself up to be disappointed, right? So if I have all this commitment to helping you and being there for you, I've given you that gift. I've been generous with it, but I gave it with a condition. And the condition is that at some point when I'm in need you, I expect you to give it back. But generosity is coming from a place of giving it unconditionally. So I'm being generous knowing that there's enough for me. And if the time that I need you and you're not there, no big deal. I'll figure out how to create it. Or because I've been giving to so many other people, I trust that somebody will be around to support me.
It's just that, like, when you really, like, if you can think back on your life and you think of all the times that, maybe somebody did something for you, and then when it was time for you to do something, you kind of, there's a back and forth, I think, naturally in relationships. It's when people bring it up. Like, so is it wrong to secretly think of, I think when someone is giving and loving and just, will give away to you, you naturally, when you have it, now you want to be giving and loving and give it away to them. But I think what happens is people who are the first one to give it away, they either expect, they expect it, like, for you to come back and give it back faster or something. Because I think, I don't know if that's like a natural thing that we just have to just like course correct ourselves, or if it's something that we've experienced, so now we expect it, and now everybody's like that.
I think that's just your experience. Like, you've experienced that, so you've put that in a box. Like, that just seems like that's what the pattern is. But there are people that will be the first one to be there to give to you unconditionally, and they will never ask you back for whatever it is they gave you, because they operate from, it'll come back to me. And if not, then maybe I wasn't supposed to have it yet. It wasn't my time. Or I've helped so many other people that hopefully somebody, or I trust that somebody will see that I need it and somebody else will return the favor. So I think it's more about, that was more your experience. And then I think of, when I think of the word generosity as a distinction, like the young kids, you can teach them when they're little how to share. And I think through the sharing is that process
definitely.
and that journey of teaching them how to be really generous.
All right, well, that's all the time that we have for today.
Always a pleasure, Jazmine.
Thanks, Dad. I love you. Okay,
you.
bye. To you, Dad. All right, everybody else, we're here every Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. right here on your hometown station, KHTS.